Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we are talking Umbrella Academy.
Yes, so usually we would talk about the Oscars, which aired yesterday, but ain't nobody got time for that.
Who cares about the Oscars?
So,
it's rigged.
It's a joke.
It's a joke anyway.
So, yeah, we unfortunately
Hashtag
don't have...
Roma got robbed.
Yeah, hashtag the favourite also got robbed. But we have so much to talk about, we can't really go into that. But if you follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU, I made some bad jokes about the Oscars, so you can see that at least. But yeah, we'll jump right in with the Umbrella Academy, which is a new Netflix show. At first I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, that looks okay. Don't have time to watch it, whatever. And then one of our listeners, Elise, she messaged us and said, what do you think about it? And I said, well, not really interested. She said, well, I recommend it. And so I watched it. And
no, I also watched the first episode.
And then Nathan messaged me. He's like, you have to watch it. The first episode is really good. So I watched the first episode. I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. And then I ended up binging the whole thing.
What have I done?
Yeah, and I was like, my God, it's so good. But like that's one of the things I want to talk about first is how there are all these great Netflix shows. One, there's too many. Mm-hmm. There's so many that even someone like me who really puts time and effort into binging.
We're enthusiasts.
Yeah, like it's hard to keep up.
You know, we're Netflix's target audience, and if we're struggling...
Yeah, but I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's too hard to keep up. But also, like, the trailers didn't interest me. So, like, for instance, with Titans, which we talked about, I think, a few weeks ago, like, the trailers are, like, too edgy for me and, like, all grimdark.
That was another show I had to sort of hassle you to watch.
And Nathan's like, actually started watching it. It's pretty good. And I end up binging the whole thing. It's really good. And then Umbrella Academy and then Russian Doll, the same thing. I saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Groundhog Day, but with a woman, and it's in New York.
No, but it's not.
And
I mean, it is, but it's not.
And I'm like, you know, whatever. I'm sure everyone's saying it's really good. I'm sure it is. I don't have time to watch it. And Nathan's like, I watched the first episode. It's pretty good.
So, I watched the first 4.
Yeah, so I watched the first episode. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's pretty good. I watched the second one. I'm like, I'm down. And I binged the whole thing.
Like, and this is it now.
The last 2 episodes of Russian Doll are like some premium shit. Like, I'm like really, really good. I highly recommend watching Russian Doll. Highly recommend it.
But this is the perfect sort of show for Netflix because it's a TV show, but it's basically just a long movie broken into parts.
Well, yeah, all premium cable shows and streaming shows now are basically just long movies.
Yeah, but this one in particular, the episodes are only like, what, 20 to 25 minutes long?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like a 4-hour movie kind of thing. But yeah, like, it's something I want to mention because it's like, are the trailers bad? Is it just the fact that there's so much stuff out there that I don't have time to watch it? And so if I'm not immediately hooked by the first 10 seconds of the trailer...
I think it's both, because I think that you run a risk of desensitization. Do you know what I mean? Like when there's so much out there, there's so many trailers, you're just like...
You're oversaturated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You get not overstimulated, but when it's all coming at you.
Exactly, and it's hard to tell... It's hard to tell, like... One of the things I love about Russian Doll is like it's a perfect balance of comedy and sci-fi. But you watch the trailer and it's just the comedy side, but to reveal the sci-fi side would spoil it. And at the end of the Russian Doll trailer, they do give away something that makes the show way more interesting.
Mysterious.
But they also spoil that point. So
you can't get it until you watch it till the end.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know... I don't want the trailers to spoil anything for me because I feel like a lot of trailers have that problem of too many spoilers. But then on the other hand, I'm not getting an idea of what the show's about because the trailer's not telling me. Or at least it's not, like, representing it...
accurately.
Yeah.
I get you. It's a problem because, as you said, there's so much coming out, and we're so sport for choice. And right now, there is absolutely nothing in these trailers that's pulling us in that direction. Like Umbrella Academy, I looked at the trailer and I knew, like, I was the perfect demographic. I'm going to watch it regardless.
But see,
I think that for people, like I knew it was I haven't read the comic, but I knew it was a comic first.
Yeah.
And I knew Gerard Way was behind it, and all that stuff. And as soon as it was announced, I'm like, well, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah,
But that's
see,
because
it should be
already
right
knew
up my
about it.
alley. It's a sci-fi superhero show on Netflix with a like band of misfit characters, and with a quirky style. And I guess it's why Elise suggested it to me, because she's like, I think you'll like it. And it's why you guys were immediately on board. But it's like, I don't know why. I was like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. It didn't immediately grip me. Whereas then you start watching the show and you're like, oh my God, this is like everything about it is great. And the trailers weren't giving me that.
And it's the same deal with Russian Doll.
Even though the trailers are like 4 minutes long,
Yeah.
you're still not getting because there's no context, there's no build up.
I think though, yeah, it's a fine line, isn't it? I mean, if you give context to a trailer,
Yeah.
you run the risk of ruining. Like
was
trailers
thinking-
these days, basically, like I'm talking AAA trailers.
Yeah.
They basically just show you a mini version of the entire film.
You know when you're scrolling Netflix and it auto plays the trailers, and sometimes through whatever algorithm or whatever, it just plays a short scene instead of a trailer. Maybe that would be better.
Yeah.
Like
if
a curated
if they
scene.
played the first scene of Umbrella Academy with the girl getting pregnant,
Yeah.
like maybe that would have got me
That could have been
more
a bit-
interested.
That could have been a better angle than playing up the mystery angle.
Yeah, maybe play that clip and then maybe do a short montage of all the characters or something. I don't know. Like,
There should be another way. Like, yeah, I think it definitely is a failure of the marketing sort of department.
yeah,
here.
because it's like this is a show tailored towards me, and yet I wasn't interested in it, at least not right away. So yeah, it's a hard. I don't know how. Like, I can't fix it. I don't know how to fix it.
Make better trailers.
Yeah, that.
And I mean, the thing is, specifically with, we'll say, Umbrella Academy, I would almost class it. The most interesting stuff for me in this show was a lot of the character stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's hard to get. I guess maybe it's hard to convey that sort of stuff on a trailer.
It's hard to say. Like, one of the good things about Umbrella Academy is that it's about the human side, and the characters first, and the powers second. But how do you convey that in a trailer?
You'd have to have like a mini trailer for each character, but then that's oversaturating.
But then, exactly.
everything.
Then I'm not going to watch 7 trailers.
No, I'd watch like one, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like
I guess it's just a tough sell by the nature of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing about Netflix is because they dropped the whole season, it's like people can watch it and then like a day later give their opinion. So it's not like a normal show where after a couple months someone finally finishes the season and then can tell you if it's worth watching, So yeah, I mean, we should mention we're going to do full spoilers
Oh yeah.
for the first season of The Umbrella Academy.
I know it's early.
Yeah,
but
I mean, like I said, you can
there's
binge it,
There's a lot to talk about.
and it's very bingeable.
Oh man.
It's very addictive. So yeah, like if you haven't seen it, watch. Like, I highly recommend it. It's really, really good.
One of the best superhero television shows pretty
Yes.
much ever, basically.
And because there was recently the news that The Punisher and Jessica Jones have also been cancelled, which we knew was coming, but now it's official. So now all of the Marvel Netflix shows have finished. This is like the perfect replacement.
Definitely.
And that's actually something I also want to talk about, how...
Unless, hold on, James. Unless we see Netflix coming up with a Luther TV show and a Class TV show, which I hope they don't do.
Oh, you mean spin-offs?
No spin-offs.
No, I'm not
spin-offs.
talking about that.
No. I'm just saying, leave it alone, Netflix.
Yeah. Because of all the because all the Marvel Netflix stuff is gone, and we don't really know how that's going to play out on the DC streaming service. It's good that Netflix is getting their own sort of superhero franchise, and also it's based on a comic that's from Dark Horse, and Polar, which we reviewed a few weeks ago, was also based on a Dark Horse comic. And Netflix and Dark Horse are releasing a Stranger Things comic. So I'm hoping in the future there might be some more Dark Horse properties that we see adapted to Netflix shows.
So are Dark Horse and Netflix like tight?
Well, I don't know. This is all my assumption
Well,
because of these things that they've been doing. I'm hoping that they have a relationship where they can perhaps adapt some Dark Horse stuff into Netflix shows and movies in the future.
That'd
I
be
mean,
really
considering they work together multiple times,
Yeah.
it's kind of safe to say that they're comfortable.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm hoping we see more of that. And also Netflix purchased Miller World, which is Mark Miller's comic
Some exciting
empire.
things coming up from that corner.
And they're making a lot of TV shows and movies and releasing comics alongside that as well, which that's really exciting as well.
When those start coming out, that's when Netflix might see some more money.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, what little void was left by the Netflix Marvel shows being cancelled is going to be overstuffed with superhero and sci-fi and fantasy.
I'm getting all excited.
Netflix aggressively compensating for the loss of the Marvel shows.
Like, I feel like, it's like the loss was hard, especially because like Daredevil season 3 was really good, and it's like, oh, I really want more of that. But yeah, I think I got over it pretty quick, especially after watching Umbrella Academy. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. You know, if there's no more Marvel shows on Netflix, I think I'm all right.
We just got to wait a little while and it'll get better.
Yeah.
But Umbrella Academy, like, that's worth,
Yeah.
that's worth the wait.
So Umbrella Academy, full spoiler warning for the first season, and I guess by connection, some of the comic will be spoiling. I haven't read it.
No, I mean,
but because of some of the connections, obviously we'll be spoiling that. But yeah, full spoiler warning for the Umbrella Academy. So it's based on a comic by Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance fame, which I never liked My Chemical Romance. I never...
Look, Gerard does all this stuff.
That wasn't my thing.
Gerard does all this stuff for you, and you don't like it. You're not interested in his music, the Umbrella Academy. Just leave.
No, but that's the thing is, like, that would have made me cringe if someone told me, oh, you know the guy from My Chemical Romance? He made a comic and a TV show. I probably would have been like, yeah, not for me.
No, but
because I didn't know who he was...
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
He's always been a massive nerd.
But that's the thing. I researched him afterwards, and he
nerd is a harsh word. I use that in an endearing way.
He is. Like, he grew up... he's a comic book fan, and he graduated from art school, and he was doing comics and art before music, and then he became a massive rock star, and then now he's gone back to comics, and he created...
doing a good job.
Yeah, not only did he create Umbrella Academy, but he created Animal... What was it called?
The Young Animals imprint, which he did runs on Shade the Changing Girl.
Yeah.
He did some Doom Patrol work, you mentioned before.
And he also wrote some stuff for Doom Patrol for DC.
Yeah.
There's also a Netflix Doom Patrol show which has some similarities to Umbrella Academy, which I'm looking forward to. I'll binge that when that's finished. So yeah, that's really interesting. So
yeah, he's got a lot of fingerprints.
Yeah, but
around.
he seems like I'm really interested in reading his stuff now because he seems to be a really good writer. And yeah, it's basically the Umbrella Academy is about. So in 1989, 43 children are born to mothers who were not pregnant.
Yeah, miracle births.
Yeah, like immediately...
Immaculate conception, I think, is the word we're looking for.
Yeah, immediately before those births, the mothers were not pregnant.
Yeah, they were not pregnant at the start of the day.
Yes, and they all gave birth to different children around the world at the same time. And billionaire, inventor, and explorer...
Richard Hargraves?
Reginald Hargreaves.
My bad.
He... tries to adopt as many of these kids as possible, and he gets 7 of them. Which I like that thing where at the start of the show where it explains him adopting, and then it cuts to black and it says he got 7 of them. I thought that was funny. And he discovers they each have their own superpower from some supernatural source that we're not sure what it is yet. And he trains them in his mansion and calls it the Umbrella Academy. And they become a team of teenage superheroes.
Think X-Men, basically.
Yeah, X-Men-esque. And then they disband after several family lots of family dysfunction and not getting along, and eventually they all leave and go about their own lives. And the show is a set where it's about Sir Reginald dies and the family has to come together. The 7 children have to come together, except for Ben, who died.
Yeah, and 5.
Oh yeah, and 5
who got lost in
the future. Yeah, it's got shades of X-Men, obviously, being like kids in a mansion, kind of learning their powers, being trained. And then it's got like Doom Patrol vibes, obviously.
It also feels like Watchmen-y to me.
It's got a weird Watchmen kind of. The domino masks.
Diego's aesthetic to me feels really Watchmen.
Yeah, it's got
Alan
Watchmen.
Moore-ish.
The show's really weird in a really good way. I really like how it embraces its comic bookiness. I love how comic booky it is. Like it doesn't. I feel like if they made a movie of this, they would try to tone it down. Whereas the show, they kind of embrace that weirdness and that comic book over the topness. Now they do change stuff from the comic book to streamline it or to make it more grounded, but still it's really kind of
over the top.
Yeah, comic book.
And it has a lot of feelings of Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, it's got a lot of Haunting of Hill House,
so like
comparisons with the family drama and the
flashbacks.
Yeah,
like
and
seeing
like the kids
moments of childhood.
Yeah, like
contrasted to like adult scenes.
Yeah, and like the main guy from Haunting of Hill House, he writes a book about the kids' lives, and then the other siblings hate it, and they kind of get estranged. And same thing happens in Umbrella Academy, where Vanya, the
estranged sister,
she writes a book about the growing up in the Umbrella Academy, and everyone hates her for it. And there's also like what was the kid in Haunting of Hill House? Was it Luke or Lucas?
Luke,
I think.
Yeah, and he kind of has
he copes with drugs.
Copes with drug addiction to sort of fight his
demons,
and his connection to the
house.
But also like his sort of because he sees ghosts and he has that connection to his twin sister. And so he kind of uses that to block it out. And similar with
Klaus.
Klaus in Umbrella Academy uses drugs to kind of
suppress his powers,
which is like I see dead people powers. So there's a lot of parallels there, and there's also like Heroes, the show Heroes, like there's that kind of thing. There's a lot of even Looper. There's like Looper time travel-y stuff. Yeah. And like time traveling assassins. And
it sounds stupid when you say it all out loud.
Yeah, but it's like
it's got elements of like
it's got
different
things. But it also what's so sense, successful. Yeah. It's so successful at combining all these things into its own thing.
If you'd laid this out of me on paper and said it's got this from this from this, and it's like this and this, I'd be like, that's going to be a mess. Yeah, but it works.
It'd be a mess, and it'd be completely derivative of all those things. But it's not. It ends up being its own thing. It just it has similarities to all those things that we love, all those sci-fi and superhero and stuff that we like, and it kind of it like puts them all together in like perfect balance.
So the story basically kicks off when 5 appears at the Umbrella Academy out of nowhere.
Yeah. So 5, who's been like lost in the future,
and we should say for the people who haven't seen it, we will call him 5 because he doesn't actually have a name.
See, I want to talk about that. How Hargreaves gives the kids numbers because he doesn't care about them. He's using them more as an experiment or as a way to.
They're like weapons.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Exactly. And he invents a nanny robot woman android kind of to take care of them, so he doesn't he's very cold and distant, and she gives the kids names. Now in the comic book, I think the reason 5 doesn't have a name is because he gets lost in the future before she gives the kids names.
That's what I assumed.
But in the show, it's clearly shown that the kids have names well before 5 gets lost in the future, like from a very young age.
That's probably just so it's probably just
So
for
it's
viewers to not get confused.
But it's like it's not. But it's also like it's not a big deal. I don't care. Like it's cool. These names 5, and it's like a weird adds to the mystery. But it's like I wish they would have just had a throwaway line about how he was so stubborn he didn't want a name.
Oh yeah, he's like,
or how
I don't like that name. Just call me 5.
Or how I think it would have been really funny if the mother, the android, they call her mum because she raised them. If she gave him a name and he hated it, and so he forbade everyone from using it, and Klaus like keeps giving him shit about it, and he's like, don't say it.
Yeah.
You know, like I thought that would be funny. And it doesn't have to be a big thing.
No,
but
mean,
just to explain it, it's not really important. It's just me nitpicking.
It's a small consistency issue. I think that the scene where Vanya refuses to eat her oatmeal, they could have. That was sort of a scene when they established that Grace didn't come into it until a while
later. Yeah,
so they could have used that as an angle
she
too.
Was,
like maybe he disappeared before that happened. But they were only like 4.
They were
at the
4 when that
time,
happened, so
that can't really work.
Yeah, I'm assuming they were named shortly after that. So and there's still like 7 years before 5 goes missing. But yeah, that's just a nitpick. I like how slow paced the sort of first episode is, and how it takes its time to introduce you to the world and characters, and also it doesn't hold your hand. Like there are just stuff in there that it either doesn't explain or like it leaves it to unfold later on. Like 5 in the apocalypse. You don't really see that until later on. It develops, and then 5 keeps referencing his job as a time-traveling assassin, and you don't see that until later on. And I like how they kind of leave that to be developed over the course of the series. And also like how there's like things like the pregnancies aren't really explained.
But they don't need to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how Pogo just rocks up and you're like,
Pogo's
why is there a
unexplained.
talking monkey? Like,
and why is the CG so good?
Yeah. And it's like they don't feel the need to explain it, you know?
What do you need to explain? It's a talking monkey. That's
but
it literally speaks for itself.
He speaks for himself.
Reginald Hargrave's an eccentric billionaire. Why doesn't he have a talking monkey?
He just invents android ladies and talking anthropomorphic
the pacing
monkey.
on this show is incredible.
Yeah, and I like how it like slowly ramps up over time. Like it doesn't start and you're like, what's going on? Who are all these people? I can't keep up. It's like slowly gets going, and then at the end it's like boom, you know.
The last few episodes are like action packed, but I appreciate as well the slowness at how it starts because you're introduced to the characters. The movie, the show is mostly character drama.
Yeah, and I think the pacing is best described as the show is about the impending apocalypse. Now, when the show starts, there's like 4 days until the apocalypse.
I think 8 days.
And no one knows. So it's slow, but the closer you get to the apocalypse and the end of the show, the more it ramps up because everyone's like, we've only got X amount of time.
And also like 5 at the start is like doing it all by himself, and then he realizes the closer he gets, like the more he needs the other team members. And that's what I like about the show. It's more of a character drama first. It's about the humanity first and the powers second.
Like all good comic books and all good comic shows.
Yeah. So it's like the characters are what make the show. The cast is what make the show. You know, their powers is like whatever. We've seen that in a million other sci-fi and superhero
Every
shows.
time 5 warps away, I keep hearing Bamf in my head like Nightcrawler from X-Men.
Yeah, his pops. Yeah. Like it's like it's stuff we've seen before. It's really well done. But it's the way they...
Yeah, but it's not about the powers.
Yeah, and I also like how it's about having... like in a lot of superhero movies and TV shows and whatever, it's like having superpowers is awesome, there's no problems. But I like how in the show it's like there's consequences to using your powers. Like you can really screw things up, not just for the world, but like for your relationships.
Not just legal consequences, but...
Yeah, just like interpersonal, and that's like what's great about the show is having all these estranged siblings who don't get along, being forced back together, and the whole show is about it's like about the family dynamic and like trauma and the abuse they suffered under their father, and like the secrets they had to keep from each other. Like it's all about that stuff, and that's what makes it more interesting. I also like how it's about their post-superhero careers. I guess it's kind of Watchmen-esque in that way as well.
The glory years are over.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're done with the costumes, they're done with the crime fighting, they're just trying to live their lives. But now they're forced back together and they have to save the world.
As cheesy as it sounds.
Save the cheerleader, save the world kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, they have to find the guy with the glass, the person who had the glass eye, you know, to save, because he causes the apocalypse. And
I just want to watch Heroes 1 again, man. Season 1.
that's it. That first season's so good.
Save the cheerleader, save the world.
Yeah.
That's all I want in my life.
Like, it's such a shame the show wasn't good after that, because it's so good. But yeah, it has those elements, and yeah, like they're all kind of washed up, and they don't really use their powers much anymore.
Apart
and
from Five. Five is a gangster.
Five is a stone cold killer.
He comes from the future and he means business.
Yeah, he's like Raxi's shotgun, imaginary shotgun. And I think that's what sets it apart from other superhero shows, and that's why the trailer didn't do it justice. It's because I was kind of like, yeah, it looks good, you know, it looks quirky, but yeah, I've seen it before. But I think it sets itself apart. It's more complex than a lot of superhero shows, and it's less black and white.
And when it is black and white, it's excellent.
And
I'm talking about
like
the scene.
Yeah. We'll talk about
No, I mean, that was
Klaus. Klaus is my next note. He's like the first thing I put in my notes is just Klaus. But like, I love the Marvel movies. We all generally really like them. But they have limitations, a lot of limitations, and so it's great. You know, I used to say that it's great that the Netflix Marvel shows can sort of expand upon that and can explore darker areas.
It does, yeah. It doesn't use the same recipe.
Yeah, and can be more mature themed, and but now those are gone, and Disney probably won't continue them, and at least not in the same way. And it's good that we still have these kind of shows that get to explore that darker side, that get to unfold more slowly. You know. But yeah, like, the show's really funny.
It has some
it's got a
emotional
dark,
moments.
Yeah.
There's some good character pieces.
But yeah, it's like, it's got a kind of dark, weird sense of humor, which I like, and that obviously doesn't overpower the emotional side of it as well, and like the family relationship and all that. But the kind of the best character in the show, and the person who embodies that kind of balance between humor and
the serious
and the more serious side, is Klaus, played by Robert Sheehan.
He's magic on the screen.
Who's gold. Just
the best.
Pure gold. Like, he's so funny. He's not just a comic relief character, because as the series goes on, you realise how damaged he is, and how
why he is the way he is.
Yeah, why he is the way he is, and like the trauma he's suffered, and why he like uses drugs to suppress his powers, and then there's the whole dynamic where because he can see dead people, he can talk to his dead brother, Ben.
Yeah, there's some type of symbiotic link between him and Ben that's not explained.
It's like he uses him as like a support tool.
And because he has to forcefully conjure other ghosts, but Ben seems to be a passive.
Yeah, it's like always
conjuring.
there. Yeah. Then they throw this thing in the middle where he accidentally time travels back to Vietnam during the war and becomes a soldier, and like gets PTSD and falls in love with another soldier who dies, and then he comes back to the present, and no one knows this has happened to him, and he's just like, screw you all, I'm out. Like, you know, like, and I'm just like, what? This show's amazing.
And we were talking the other night, and you're like, I didn't think they were going to show it.
Yeah, like at first he just has like auditory flashbacks, and I'm like, oh, that's a shame they don't have the budget or whatever to show him in Vietnam. And like next episode, like they show him, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. Like, it's crazy. But
and
yeah,
it's powerfully done as well. It's so good.
And he has the tattoo from the airborne regiment he was part of. I think it's really cool that he kept the tattoo as well.
Yeah, and he wears the vest the whole, like, after that the whole time, the soldier fatigues. But yeah, like, he's so good.
He's so good, and of course, like he struggles as a drug addict. becomes center stage because he needs them to sort of not see the ghosts and not be tormented by them
Yeah.
all the time. But then he needs to get sober to get his own
To get his-
closure with
yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave was the soldier that he lost in the
Yeah,
war.
and he also, to get his, like, to release the full potential of his powers, he has to get sober.
Which is like a quest in itself.
Yeah,
for his character.
it's like a
as well.
subplot of everyone else is trying to save the world, and he's
he's
like,
just trying to get clean.
yeah, and he's just trying to get clean. I like how Diego is like, you have to tie me up.
He's like, I need to go to the toilet.
Yeah. It's so good. I love when he's getting tortured, and he's loving it. He's like, yeah. And then the only way to actually hurt him is to like
Take his pills away.
like stamp on his pills, and he's like, no, please. He's like, I'll tell you anything.
Oh, it's so good. And I just love the sort of the redemption, like the vindication at the end when everyone just considers him like a useless fighter,
Yeah.
like stay away. And then when he's completely clean and he can embrace his powers to their full potential, he's
Yeah.
deadly.
Yeah, and like he's no one believes that he can see and talk to Ben, and then like he kind of unleashes Ben.
He can sort
Ben's
of
power. He can-
almost conjure Ben
Ben's
briefly
powers, yeah.
into the world.
Yeah, like physically, he can use Ben's powers. Which apparently in the comic they go more in depth, where he can conjure different people and like use their abilities, which is cool. So hopefully we'll see more of that in the second season if the show gets renewed, which I have a feeling it
I have
will.
a feeling it will. And
Oh, man.
one of the other things that's like I hope they explore,
Mm.
maybe not in the next season, but if we're lucky enough to continue after, is like what happened with all the other children that were born on that day.
Yeah. Well, apparently in the comic they never really like concrete touch upon that, but they say like most of them got abandoned or given up and died and but yeah, I think there's a lot of potential to have other kids with powers out there. But yeah, like Klaus is
He's probably my
Robert
favourite
Sheehan
character.
is like
Yeah.
so good, and yeah, just so funny and really in the emotional scenes
It's
really
like- yeah, it's-
hits
I
you
mean-
hard as well. Would you agree Five is the second best character?
Yes.
yeah.
That
Absolutely.
That kid is hilarious.
Before we move on, because
the
we have
58
a lot to talk about.
58-year-old man in like a
Yeah.
13 years old.
Yeah.
Before we move on from Klaus completely,
Yeah.
I feel like we should just give an honourable mention to the scene in which Klaus believes he dies,
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, go.
and it's all in black and white.
yeah.
Except for his top.
No, I
except
think
for his
he
top,
does die and he goes to quote unquote heaven, which is like a black and white countryside, and a little girl on a bike rides up to him, and I guess she's God.
And
Yeah.
he's like, where am I?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm kind of agnostic, so I don't know.
Yeah. And she's like, he's waiting for you, and he thinks,
It's just such a beautifully shot.
yeah, and it's
scene.
got like
Dave,
it's got
yeah.
like cheesy French accordion music, and it's like on this countryside, and his tank top is like bright, like yellow or orange, like in contrast to the world being black and white. And then she's like points to a building and like he's waiting for you, and he thinks he's going to be reunited with his love, and he goes in and it's his dead father, who like everyone, all of them hate except for Luther, who's a daddy's boy.
and then he gets a shave.
Yeah, and then his dad's shaving him.
It's
and
like dream
explains
logic,
that-
like
yeah,
dream logic.
But his dad's also explaining something really
Yeah.
profound to him,
important. Yeah,
and he's like, he gets revived just as he's getting to the good stuff.
yeah.
But also, it's such a beautifully shot scene.
It's so
I
good.
loved it.
Yeah, and like Klaus is the perfect character for that scene. Where it's just like, what the hell? Yeah.
So 5.
5, yeah. So Aidan Gallagher plays number 5, who's never given a name, who has like teleport, like Nightcrawler abilities, and can use those abilities to blink into the future.
Technically, his
And-
abilities are traveling through space and time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're technically connected, but yeah, like at first he uses them to teleport from place to place until he kind of develops his powers enough to
Go through
go
time.
through
yeah.
time, which his father forbids him to, and he deliberately goes against that.
Like any teenage boy.
because
like,
he's a
why would-
teenage boy.
Instead of just be like, no,
Yeah.
like that's the dad's fault.
But he should have listened, because he blinks past the apocalypse and he's the last person alive on the planet. And so he spends the next 35, 40 years, 45 years. He's
Something like
58. So if he's,
he's
13,
58 when he's 58 when he comes back to the academy, when he
Yeah.
goes back in time. So maybe not quite.
Oh, but he also
works for
spent
the
that
agents,
time. Yeah.
yeah.
So like
We'll say 30.
like
years.
30, yeah, 30 years. I think he says 30 years, yeah. And, yeah. So he spends 30 years alone in the apocalypse,
Just surviving.
Just surviving. Like the whole world's been like all the buildings have been leveled and the whole world's been destroyed and there's not another person left alive. He falls in love with a department store mannequin named Dolores, who's his like only companion, and he grows old.
And he just does maths.
Yeah,
Tries to work out the equation to go back.
Yeah, how to figure out how to go back and stop the apocalypse. And then he gets confronted by a time traveling woman
Called the Handler.
Yeah, who offers him a job as a time traveling assassin. Who they go through time and kill anyone who's going to change the way.
Deviate from the timeline.
Yeah, and so he goes back and becomes a stone cold like assassin. And then eventually wants to fix the apocalypse, which is supposed to happen, and so his employers can't let him do that. But he goes back in time to present day, but in the transference of his consciousness gets stuck in his 13-year-old body. So he's a 58-year-old man stuck in a 13-year-old body. And Aidan Gallagher's hilarious. He's like
he's so good.
So snarky and sarcastic.
I love one of his first scenes where he's like, he goes to the donut shop and he's like, I want coffee.
Yeah.
He's like, black coffee.
Black, yeah. Yeah, he's really good. And I love his dynamic with Klaus where, because no one takes him seriously because he's got the body of a kid, he needs Klaus to get him into this building and to act like he's like the kid's dad. And Klaus is like...
He hams it up.
Hams it up like 211. It's so funny. Like he smashes himself on the head with the... He's like, look what you did to me.
Yeah.
Oh, man, so good. And then dude, he punches Five in the face, yeah? It's so funny. Yeah, then there's Luther, who's the golden boy, who's Big Chonker's boy.
Moon Unit.
I prefer Moon Unit.
Yeah. Moon Unit is like the better nickname, but it's too tough for Luther because Luther at his heart is like a marshmallow. He's a teddy bear.
Yeah.
So I think Space Chonkers is my nickname for him because it's more cuddly. But yeah, he's a big unit of a guy. His power is super strength. When everyone leaves and goes about their own lives, he stays behind because he believes in the Umbrella Academy and he wants to save people and whatever. But his father couldn't care less.
No.
He doesn't even know everyone's left. He's just like, whatever.
And he gets mortally wounded on a mission. And then to save him, they inject him with some sort of serum.
Yeah, Sir Reginald, who's like this crazy inventor, uses, I guess, kind of similar stuff to what Pogo, and he injects him with some sort of serum that
cures
him, but it like gives him like the body of like a gorilla. Like he has like a huge upper body, but his head is normal. So he's got this little tiny head and this huge hairy gorilla body. And he wears these big overcoats to hide it, obviously. And no one, like the whole like first part of the show is him like hiding it from people. And
by the end of the series, he's raving shirtless.
Yeah, the rave scene's hilarious. I like how Klaus becomes the responsible one and has to like stop doing drugs to then stop Luther doing drugs. It's hilarious. But yeah, Luther's the only one who actually likes his like Sir Reginald, the father, and who believes in the mission of the Umbrella Academy. There's Allison, played by Emmy Raver Lampman. Her power is to suggest, like power of suggestion. She can control people with her suggestions, which lands her in trouble.
They don't go too much, like you don't really see her use it too much through the show, but
because in the show she's
ruined her life.
She's sworn off, so I don't think she ever actually uses it except for once in the present and once in a couple times in the past scene.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like when she says I'm not using my powers anymore, like
she means
it.
Because it ruined her, like basically ruined her life.
Yeah. And I think
she got addicted to her power.
Sort of, yeah, because she could get anything she wants.
Yeah.
They allude to the fact that she got her husband by using her control. They allude to the fact that she got her career.
I can't remember the exact dialogue, but there's a great part where she explains that nothing in her life was real.
Yeah,
because she just like forced people to give her everything.
Exactly.
She found out that her whole life was fake.
Yeah.
I thought that was very powerful.
I think that's what's interesting about the show. It's like the characters are interesting, even if their powers we've seen them before, or even if we don't get to see them display their powers all the time. It's like that's what's interesting is like how they realize how the powers have consequences and how it affects their relationships, and how like her and the other siblings were forced apart because of like her sort of selfishness or whatever, That's the interesting part about her character.
And Luther and Allison also have a good subplot by themselves with their relationship that I found was really good.
Yeah, like that kind of it's an interesting dynamic between each. Like I think what's great about the show as well is like each character has their dynamic with every other character. So like Diego and Klaus have a thing. Klaus and Five have a thing. Five and Diego have a thing,
Klaus and Luther have a thing.
Yeah, it's like and over the course of the series, you get to see everyone interact and everyone sort of overcome their problems and
so
work
well
things
written.
out.
I mean,
it's so well done.
In regards to the romantic subplot between Allison and Space Chonkers, some people,
Big boy,
some people,
Chonkers boy.
some people thought it was kind of weird, but I was like, no, see, I interpreted it as, they were brothers and sisters in the fact that they were all adopted by the same person. But I was saying to Callum, who's been on the show before, that their relationship is not like.
It's not a normal
like,
family.
It's a military.
Yeah.
It's a military. Think of it like a military unit.
Sort of.
It's almost like a boarding.
They weren't allowed to. They weren't really allowed to talk to each other after hours.
Yeah. How do I say this without sounding weird? Because she's black and he's white, it adds this further separation of. It's clear they're not biologically linked.
But even if they were just like even if they.
No, I get where you're coming
but it's
from,
like
James.
it's good for the incest memes that everyone puts on Reddit. Like people love that.
My point is like I feel like their relationships weren't as close as people assumed they would be.
Yeah.
Just because they didn't always get along. There's a lot of friction between the different
and
numbers.
also they grew up knowing they weren't brothers and sisters. Like even though they see each other as siblings, they knew they weren't.
They were more fellow students than they were brother and sister. In my viewing
more
of
an X-Men kind of.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. So quickly, Diego, played by David Castaneda. His pair in the show is kind of boring.
Yeah, but I also like it a lot.
I want them to develop more. And I'm hoping they will. I'm hoping they'll add more stuff. He'll discover more stuff. Basically, he can throw... He's kind of like Bullseye.
He's kind of like Bullseye, Gambit kind of...
Yeah, he can like throw anything and hit a target. He can bend objects like around corners. But basically, he just used knives. Like, he just throws knives. He fights with knives. It's kind of boring. I feel like they should have done more. Like, I feel like they should have done more Bullseye-esque things where he throws everyday objects.
Yeah.
Like, there's one bit in the end of the series where the guys with the red gas mask come in, and I think he throws something at them, like not a knife. But other than that, he always uses knives. Like, he's just always decked out in knives, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like I feel like they could have added more there.
Even they could have used his powers in more interesting ways if they can't. Like, for instance, he could have been hiding from someone and he could have thrown something around a corner to...
They don't really do a lot.
Use like distraction.
Yeah. In saying that, though, even though I think they could have done a lot more with his powers, like the action scenes are really good and like his action scenes are well done. And then there's Vanya, played by Ellen Page, who...
X-Men graduate herself.
Yeah. Who is ordinary. She doesn't have any powers and she's sort of distant from all the other...
Forcibly separated from the others.
Because she wasn't part of the crime-fighting team, she doesn't have the same relationship to all the other siblings. Then as the series goes on, obviously we find out she's the most powerful one of all.
She Jean Grays it up. She becomes
she's got she can turn sound into light energy
waves.
Yeah, like she can like blow. She pretty much caused the apocalypse the first time around.
Her powers aren't her powers start off really simple.
Yeah,
and then they doesn't get explained, but they become more complicated, more powerful.
Yeah, basically she can take sound and just blast waves of like energy and destroy things. And
from what I gathered while watching it, her sort of ultimate power is sort of unlocked when she listens and uses her own heartbeat. as like an energy
See, that was I
amplifier.
like that bit how like because she needs sound to channel into her power. It's like so Reginald locks her in a soundproof room, and the siblings do that at the end, obviously because she becomes dangerous, and then she uses her own heart like beat to use that sound as her fuel, which I thought was cool because now she's like unstoppable.
Yeah,
Because
it's
as long as she's alive, she
She's got
has
a sound.
infinite like powers, you know.
And I love
So
how they tried to stop her at the end in the same vein by shooting a gun next to her ears.
Oh, that was so good. I'm like,
because it stops her hearing.
yeah, and I'm like, that's interesting because it's like now her powers are either
Nullified.
like if not, you know, severely disabled. So that's really interesting.
That was just a really cool little sort of
Yeah.
effect.
Also, like, there's obviously parallels to Phoenix from X-Men, and that Phoenix movie's supposed to be coming out, the real X-Men one, which no one wants, and
We don't need that. We've
should
got this
not-
now.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, this show did it better. Like, we know that's not going to be good. And then there's Ben, played by Justin Min.
They could do more
Who-
with Ben, I feel, but
Well, I mean,
find
he's
it really-
dead.
yeah, but they could have played around a little bit more with
I feel
Ben.
like season
That
2
didn't
will-
stop him from saving the day.
Yeah, I feel like, and his powers, he can sort of generate.
Tentacles.
I think in the comic they say that he can summon beasts from another dimension, so it's kind of like a Lovecraftian thing.
Elder god.
Yeah,
business.
but in the show, all you see is that he kind of grows tentacles out of his torso and kills guys. But what's interesting about him is that Klaus can talk to him and is connected to him, and so uses him as a support method, and then at the end of the show, physically manifests him so he can use his powers, which is really cool. I also like the scene where Klaus is using all the dead people to antagonize
Hazel and Cha-Cha.
who Hazel is so good. Like
Oh.
Cameron Britton is so good. Like he played Ed Kemper in
I thought he
Mindhunter.
did. I thought he did.
Yeah, right?
'Cause I kept
He's
hearing the
so
voice.
good.
I kept hearing the
Yeah.
voice, and I'm like,
Elaborate.
yeah.
He's so good. But yeah, like Hazel and Cha-Cha, these time traveling assassins who work for the same organization that hired Five, and they wear these creepy like rabbit masks, and it's really cool and
Very
creepy.
comic
and,
book.
Yeah, it's very comic booky, and they carry this suitcase kind of time travel machine, and yeah, it's really really cool. And I like his relationship with. He has like
The
a
donut lady?
Yeah, he has like a crisis of conscience, and so he ends up like wanting to leave
With this
the
old
assassin
lady?
business with this lady who runs the local donut shop, and it's so good. Everything about it, I love.
Yeah.
And honorable mention to the aesthetic of the show, in particular,
Yeah.
the style.
So
the show is sort of like it's 2019, but through a lens of
Yeah.
1975 almost.
Yeah.
There's a lot of retro cars.
Well, that's what I want to. Well, one thing is, Mary J. Blige plays Cha-Cha.
Oh, Cha-Cha, of course.
which
So
is
we
cool.
forgot to mention Cha-Cha, sorry.
Also, I really like Colm Feore as Sir Reginald Hargreaves. He's so good. Like, I believe that guy is
Very cold, very distant.
He's like a weird, eccentric explorer, inventor.
Would not let him adopt my children.
No.
Quick lore question. I don't know if it's explored in the comics at all, but there's one scene in either the penultimate or the ultimate episode
Yeah.
where you see him as a young man.
Oh yeah,
Well,
no, we'll
young
talk
gun.
about that. We'll talk about that in a sec. So yeah, we were talking about the production value.
Yeah, it's
Very
20
high production value.
But
It
it's
looks
also-
fantastic.
There are no mobile phones. All the television
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
screens
2019
old.
through a lens of
Yeah,
1975.
so in the comic book, apparently it's set in the late 70s, in an alternate timeline where JFK was never assassinated. Now, in the show, it's set in 2019, but they never mention if if the timeline was altered.
Well, I know
Um,
JFK does die in the show.
Yeah, so the thing is, like, there's no cell phones. There's most of the TVs are like CRT, monitors and stuff. So
But
it's
there
like
also
in a
is
weird,
advanced prosthetics and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
So
going on
it's
too.
like I don't mind it. Like, it's got a weird kind of thing,
It
but
works.
I kind of like with Number Five's name. I kind of wish they just said in this universe JFK never got assassinated, and that like it would have changed everything, But again, they can explore that in the season 2, and it's just a nitpicky thing. It's not really important. The action's great. The CGI for a TV show is pretty like top notch. Like Pogo looks great.
It's better than.
It's better than
It's better than
most.
It's better than
It's better than most like DC
better than
movies.
Justice League.
Yeah. And like at the end when the moon like cracks apart and like crashes into like that's some really good like really well produced CGI. And the soundtrack, amazing.
That's because that's the Gerard Way influence.
Yeah. But like even
Hazy
so,
Shade
like,
of Winter by Gerard Way on vocals.
No, but the soundtrack all over. That's one thing I said to Callum today. I'm just like, just all the soundtracks all like the music pieces they choose. I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Everything they chose was some deep cuts in there. Like really
one
good
thing you
stuff.
see in this show you don't see in other shows is just the randomly inserted musical number.
Oh yeah, I also like that. Just dancing.
Yeah.
I like the dancing.
That one scene where they put on that track from the 80s and it's just like they're just
I
like
think
dancing.
we're alone now. Yeah, and each of them's dancing. I also like that cheesy ass dance scene with Allison and Luther, where they kind of imagine that they're in like a musical and they're like dancing,
that
and
was
there's
really
like
cool.
there's like fairy
And
lights
it's
hanging
thin,
from
and
the
Space
trees.
Junk because he's thin.
And he's,
He's like
no
normal
longer gorilla
again.
body.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was like,
man.
oh my god, it's so good. And then it's like they reverse it all, and it's all
And you're
undone.
like,
And I
"No,
was like,
stop."
no, feel betrayed. But really looking forward to season 2. Hasn't been confirmed, but I'm pretty sure like they wouldn't be that dumb to not continue on.
I think it's been a hit. I haven't heard any negative criticisms.
Yeah, no, I think it's doing really well. There's a really big fan community now. A lot of memes.
It's certainly no Green Book,
Yeah, it's
which we enjoyed.
yeah, no, we like that. Yeah, I think season 2 will be like they have so much things to explore. Are they going to do like a kind of like with number 5 where it's like they have adult minds but they're in kid bodies? Because they go back in time to sort of fix their relationship with Vanya and to sort of stop her from turning into Phoenix and destroying the world. So that'll be interesting.
I hope it's a situation where sort of the outside world, we were discussing this before, the outside world sees them as children, but they see themselves as adults.
I think they'll probably do that where the audience and themselves, then the characters themselves see themselves as adults, but everyone else in the show sees them as kids. That way they can keep the same actors. But that'll be funny, like adult size wearing the uniforms. But yeah, if they do that, they'll probably only do it for like an episode or so. Like I don't think they'll stretch that out for the whole season. But that's also interesting because they can bring Ben back, like a live Ben, and they can explore Sir Reginald's past because, like Nathan was saying just before about how you see that glimpse of him.
Really weird.
But there's a weird scene with this rockets going up, and
my assumption is that he's an alien from another planet and that his world was dying, his wife was dying, and that they abandoned the planet, and that when he opens the jar of sparkly firefly things, that's him seeding the kids on Earth. So the reason all the kids are born with powers is because they're all born of this alien magical seed. But that's never really explained. Apparently in the comic it's given a little bit more explanation, but not a lot.
Because that would make some sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Because in the first episode, you see that he can fly some sort of spacecraft, and he's like flying around. To abduct
my
all the
assumption was
kids.
that he's just a genius, essentially billionaire.
Oh, yeah, it could just be.
Yeah. Like he has so much money and he's like a talented inventor that he just made all this crazy stuff, like how he made Pogo and Mum. But yeah, like I think they definitely hint at him being like from another world, and they can explore that more, I think.
So that's interesting. If he is from another world, would he see the adults? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah,
how far do his senses extend?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Apparently, in the comic books, his monocle is like really important, and it has like
like a HUD,
like he can see things through it. But in the show, they get rid of that really quickly. So I don't know if they did that on purpose.
That for season 2.
Yeah.
Well, in the show, he's dead, so
yeah, but
it'll
be really interesting because apparently the show takes bits from the original comic book and the sequel, which is called Dallas, and it kind of combines them and streamlines them. But it would be interesting if they can take more from Dallas and explore upon that in season 2. And also there's a third comic book called Hotel Oblivion, which apparently is about all the supervillains that the Umbrella Academy put in prison. So that'll be an interesting dynamic to explore later on as well.
I know that Gerard Way said that apparently he wants 8 volumes.
Yeah.
So there's more meat, at least in the mind of the creators. There's more meat on the bones.
Yeah, and apparently Gerard Way has said that. I guess kind of like with George Martin in Game of Thrones, it's like he's given them all his notes and drawings and stuff for future books.
Oh, really? That's really
even
good.
ones that haven't been written or published yet.
That's amazing. That's really awesome.
Yeah, so the producers of the show have like a whole heap of stuff they can draw from and explore and expand upon. So yeah, I'm really excited for season 2.
Sounds like the talks for further seasons at least started well, because nothing's been confirmed. But if is giving those notes,
I definitely think there's going to be a season 2, and I'm really looking forward to it. Highly recommend the show, and was surprised to have liked it that much. So you never know until you try it, I guess. So thanks to Elise, thanks to Nathan for watching it as well and being like, you should watch it. Thank you everyone else for listening. Really appreciate it. Like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called now.
Retweet us on Twitter.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Tuesday Review AU.
Not just follow, retweet as well.
Yeah,
please.
retweet my spicy memes. I made some spicy Oscars memes and some spicy Umbrella Academy memes. So smash that little heart button, the like button. That's it. Adios, cousins.